Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze!
Oh, what?
Was that too much? Anyway, we are your hosts.
I'm John.
And I'm CC. And we would like to fill you in on anime we watched in the previous season. But first, let's talk a bit about a show that John picked up and quickly threw back into our trash stash.
I don't know how many of you out there are familiar with a little gem called Valkyrie Drive.
It sounds precious.
It's pretty bad. Apparently, Valkyrie Drive was birthed from the same mind that created Senran Kagura.
A show I haven't watched either, so...
Well, I became more familiar with the games before it got an anime adaptation, but...
Was that a bad sign to begin with? Like, oh, it's from the guy, from the people who made Senran Kagura. That's not going to turn out well, or was it? I don't know. Was it something that made you? Oh, maybe this will turn out all right.
Well, going in and knowing what Senran Kagura is, on the surface level, it's very apparent what it is. But Valkyrie Drive just kind of takes that and then just throws away any veil of
pretense, like this...
pretty much, because Senran Kagura, yes, it's very laden with fan service, but the characters feel slightly more than one-dimensional because they each have their own personalities. Valkyrie Drive is like, hey, lesbians for the sake of lesbians. And it's like, right.
Also tits in your face the entire time because we need to fill screen time or something. This is not a diss against fan service, by the way. It's like, I'm not one of, I don't know about you, John, but I'm not one of these guys who's like, man, fan service in the show, fuck that, I hate boobs. No, that's no. That's totally not the case. I don't know about you.
Everything in moderation is
exactly.
The way I see it. And like I said, like we were saying, not a slight against fan service, man service, lesbians, gays, whatnot, but it's hard to really enjoy or recommend something when it's just based around that. When it's like, hey, the girls kiss and then one of them turns into a sword.
Yeah.
Also, when they press their boobs together, and it's very like, okay, all right, stop, please.
Yeah. When it for lack of a better word, feels too forced. Like, this has all to be in there because this is a fan service show and this serves no proper, no purpose besides, being in there because it's a fan service show. It's not, I don't know, supportive of the narrative or anything. And
Kenichiro Takaki, bless his soul for giving the world Senran Kagura, because the games are dumb fun. They're silly beat 'em ups with funny characters.
So are they like Dynasty Warriors or?
On a smaller scale, I think the one that just came out in the U.S., Estival Versus, available now. I'm staring at my copy sitting on my bed.
Is it a plug? We're not getting any funding for this.
We're totally not sponsored by Marvelous or Xseed Games.
Nope, not yet anyway.
I think Estival Versus, they might have upped the scale a little bit to be more similar to Dynasty Warriors. I can report back on that. But, no, they're just, I would say take Final Fight and maybe double the size of any given encounter.
Oh, okay. All right. I get it.
But, bless his heart and soul for giving the world what he calls life and hometown. Mm-hmm. But, Valkyrie Drive, it's just, it's too much. It needed to be dialed back, and I don't know how the Vita or the phone game are. They're probably more of the same, but it's like, yeah, no, that's all right. That's okay.
So was there like I don't know, an ink of possibly good plot in there, or was it just, hey, today we have to find another way to let these characters get naked and press their boobs together or something?
It's pretty much the latter.
Oh, that's a shame.
I got, I went into the show expecting something. I wasn't expecting quite, for the dial to go past 10 and all the way to 20.
Fan service in general is an interesting thing. Like I said, I don't mind it in general. Let's take a good example. I mean, we've talked about the show before, or mentioned it in passing. Bento. Bento is, I think you could agree, or you would agree when I say that it's a fan service laden show, right? I mean, it's not like there's boobs dropping out of every, I don't know, out of every shirt here and there, but it's in there, right?
Yeah, but there's also the idea that there's different kinds of fan service, not just,
Exactly.
big tits and panty shots. Bento also had the fan service of, hey, we really like Sega. It's all over the place. And I was like, when I got through watching the show, I was like, this is the greatest show ever.
Yeah, and I like Bento a lot. Like I didn't mind the fan service for the most part. There were some scenes that felt like, okay, I don't know, those don't need to be in there because they don't serve a purpose, because these characters interacting with another in that way didn't happen before and will never happen again. It's just in there to be, we gotta have a fan service scene. But that happened pretty rarely in Bento. So I recognized all the stereotypes and the characters that had some kind of fan servicey purpose in there, but they didn't bother me that much. And so there can be shows that do it right, but apparently Valkyrie Drive is not one of them.
No.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to that show?
I don't think so. I think it's a show that what you see is more or less what you get. I mean, who knows? Maybe there was some stunning plot revelation 10 episodes in, but I'm willing to bet probably not.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you could commend the show for being brutally honest right from its first episode on, and telling you, well, this, if you were looking for something more, don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
Oh, no. I went in expecting fan service. I got it. I think I got way too much of it. And I was like, see ya, bye.
Well, sometimes you're just not in the mood for tits. However weird that sounds. So let's be done with the jiggle physics and move on to a show we actually finished and, for the most part, enjoyed. Vampires fucking suck, am I right? Well, no, I guess.
Literally?
Yes. But what I mean is either they kill your entire family or ruin a whole generation of growing women with their pale, sparkly six-packs. But at least we're not going to talk about the latter kind of vampires. No, we're going to discuss the former. And we're going to talk about a show called Seraph of the End, or Japanese title, Owari no Seraph. I'm going to start with a quick plot synopsis, just, for the people who have no idea what the show is about, as usual. So, in 2012, the world allegedly comes to an end at the hands of a human-made virus. Typical apocalyptic setting. Instead of getting your typical zombie outbreak or anything, you basically get almost, the human race comes just close to extinction. And the virus is basically ravaging the global populace and leaving only the children under the age of 13 untouched.
I still feel like that's oddly specific, age 13, but I guess it kind of makes sense in the context of the story.
Well, it's your typical anime protagonist age, or, it leaves the setup for that. Of course, the character's age, and then that's where the story starts. But yeah, that's the setup, and it's like, well, we need a bit of pre-story, so we're gonna have them start at age 13, and then the main story begins when they're like 16 or something. So it is at this time that vampires, who have apparently been around, emerge from the recesses of the earth. So I guess they have been like partying underground, waiting for humanity to die out or something. And with them, they're like these creatures roaming the streets now that are called Horsemen of the Apocalypse or something, and they're just basically big monsters, and they're killing what's left of humanity. So yay! Uh, and well, basically the vampires sweep the earth and claim it in a single violent strike, and like suppress and subjugate the rest of humanity, and lead them beneath the surface to quote unquote safety. And this safety, this protection, it's of course not free. It comes with a price. All the survivors have to donate blood to their captors, which makes sense, of course, because they're vampires. And that's what basically that's the stand of humanity. And our main character Yuichiro and his friend and fellow orphan Mika or Michaela. So when they're like 12 years or something, they plot to escape along with the group of children they have assembled around them, like in an orphanage, the Hyakuya orphanage. And, they've basically become family, which is a very, very important aspect in that show and is mentioned numerous times, pretty much in every episode, that word alone. So, yeah, they try, however, this results in the death of Mika, Ayla, and all the other children, apparently. And the only survivor is Yuichiro, and he gets to the surface and is saved by the members of the Moon Demon Company, which is an examination unit of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, which is basically like this is what's left of the Japanese army, and who are basically fighting the vampires and the survival of mankind. Well, that's what happens in the first episode, and our second episode picks up 4 years later, on where Yuichiro dedicates his life to destroy vampires and seek revenge against them for murdering his family. So yeah, that's the basic setup for the story, and the show is produced by Studio Wit, who, have made a big hitter by the name of Attack on Titan. Mm-hmm. And, that has a second season coming. So we're looking forward to that.
Which is unfortunate that it was apparently pushed back because Isayama was saying that he wants the story in the manga to be further ahead before they really... I'm assuming they've begun production, but before they really, get it done and going and out there and on TVs for everyone to watch.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know about that. That is kind of unfortunate, but on the other hand, it's the best reason to do that, because we all hate fillers in anime.
Yeah.
And I'd rather wait a bit longer for a new season than for there to be any material that's just a buffer for the real story. So yeah, then we're gonna have to wait longer for a bit Attack on Titan, it seems. But well, at least we had this to help make the wait a bit more bearable, or so I think. But we'll get to that. Okay, so Seraph of the End is based on the manga created by Daisuke Furuya, Takaya Kagami, and Yamamoto. So
that's a
apparently it's apparently created by 3 people, which is interesting. That doesn't happen that often. So Daisuke Furuya is responsible for the storyboards. Takaya Kagami is responsible for the story. He has also made Legend of the Legendary Heroes, which I've watched a bit of the anime adaptation of that, but didn't get too far into it. It looked interesting, but for some reason or another, I dropped it. I don't remember why now, but it's been a while ago. So that's that. And Yamamoto was responsible for the art. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Like that 3 people worked on this.
Yeah, usually it's like a 2-person team, the writer and the artist, but
or a 1-person team where
sometimes
guy comes up with the story and draws the same. I don't know how it's in the big popular thing among us.
I don't know. I just feel like it seems like, anyway, to me, that it's more common for a 2-person team. But, every so often you get that 1-man army or 1-woman army.
Yeah, right. Well, not in this case. 3 people. And the anime was directed by Daisuke Tokudo, which I think this show is his first big directing gig. Apparently, I couldn't find anything in his history that was notable from a director's standpoint. I might be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he's done like maybe episode direction here and there and storyboarding.
However, when it comes to the guy who wrote the script, which is Hiroshi Seko, that things look a bit more, I don't know, filled in or something, because he worked on scripts for Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann, Attack on Titan. So he got some big action show creds in there. It shows because the writing in that show is, I don't know, it felt pretty tight. Felt like there wasn't much fat on there that had to be, I don't know, cut away. I think the show moves along at a very decent pace. And yeah, I think that it shows that that guy has experience when it comes to action shows. However, the first season is a bit of a mixed bag in terms of animation. I think the second one, Battle for Nagoya, is more consistent. Studio Wit, like with Attack on Titan, got a bit of a helping hand from Production IG for the second season. But in the first season, it felt like at some parts they were in over the head. Especially that final episode of the first season, that should have been like this big showstopper moment with you. Also, I think we're gonna go into spoilers, at least for the first season, partially. So be warned. So there's this big showstopper moment at the end of season 1 with you, and where he like goes through a kind of transformation, and that should have looked impressive and threatening and everything, but it looked really janky in my opinion. I don't know. Do you agree in that?
To the best of my recollection, I don't remember it looking like offensively bad.
No, but frame rate dropping and a bit of jittery movement here and there, and just not as fluid as you had seen it before in a lot of episodes. And since this was the final episode of the first season, I would have expected that to be like, well, now we're gonna waste the rest of our budget. Here we go. And it wasn't. So that was a weird choice.
Who knows? Maybe they had like less help with that particular episode, and they had to just
maybe
get it done, or it could be any number of factors.
Yeah,
I mean, I like to be a little more forgiving with animation quality sometimes, because obviously it's hard work, but I mean, when quality is clearly like really bad, terrible, it is difficult to ignore. And I hate to use it as the whipping boy, but
Chaos Dragon.
Yep. That's the one example that I just go back to, because it's a show where no character is ever on model. The animation as a whole is jank, and it's just... So I feel like, looking at something like even Seraph's worst moments in the first season, still looks pretty good.
Yeah, I could agree on that. It's just, I probably just, from Attack on Titan and the way the show looked before, I probably for that final episode of the first season, I just expected a bit more, especially since the staging was pretty dramatic and everything. But, that's maybe my fault for, wrong expectations, everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, the second season is a lot more consistent in terms of quality and, really good. And the final episode of that was really great. I mean, at least in terms of animation and everything, it looked really good. So I guess I got my kind of finale, nice looking finale for now. The characters, we got you, which is our brash main character guy. He starts off as the typical thick-headed emo jerk a bit, because he's like, yeah.
He starts off very purely driven by revenge.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you can't blame him, but it gets a little grating after a bit.
Or it would if he had kept with that. And that's what...
Oh, yeah.
That was my fear. I was worried that would happen, because these kind of characters are very common in anime, and they're hard, to make. It's hard to make them likable all the time, and they can be very annoying. But I found you to become a really sympathetic protagonist very quickly.
Mm.
Because once he gets through his, I gotta be alone, the only thing I have to do is revenge my family thing, which like I said, happens pretty quickly. He starts like adopting his new teammates from the army, as his new family, and they become friends, and he risks his life for them, and his mission is still to take revenge, but not at the cost of his comrades.
Right.
And that's very sympathetic character trait. Like he's driven but not that driven. He's not like willing to risk everything.
I don't feel like he was ever really willing to sacrifice, his new friends and family to get his objective done. But it's very clear that at first he's very resistant in teaming up with them.
Yeah, and very cold. He's being an asshole to them, basically. But that changes very quickly, and I was very happy to see that. And he quickly became, one of my favorite characters in the show. Just for that reason alone, I guess. He was a sympathetic character. And my other favorite would be Shinua.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's one of his teammates, and she's also the daughter of one of the daughter or adopted daughter, I'm not sure, of one of the ruling families or important family in the army structure of that show.
I think it's one of those weird, that's what I'm looking for, branch family situations that people like exploring so much, and I still don't quite understand it, but
It hasn't been played up that much in the show yet, but it seems like it's getting more important. She's a cool character. She's very snarky. She's like making fun of you and a lot of other characters pretty much the entire time, but not in a, I don't know, heavy-handed or dumb way. It's fun, and she's very entertaining and a very likable character. She got skills too in fighting and everything, and planning missions, and for the most part she knows what she's doing. She's willing to risk pretty much as you for her comrades, and she's a very likable character. Do you have any other favorite among the cast that you would like to highlight?
I mean, I kind of like Gurren. I think I like Gurren because even though he comes across as kind of, a jerk to the main cast, it's for a purpose, because he's maybe not quite like, your typical drill sergeant or whatever, but it's like, showing them like you have to be tough both on and off the battlefield, and he teaches them just as much as he can about fighting and about camaraderie.
Gurren is the basically the commander of the unit that Yu is in, and he's kind of a surrogate father figure for you, or that's what he becomes.
Yeah.
And I like their moments very much. It feels like those two basically just giving each other shit at the beginning of the show. Like, I don't know, they kind of hate each other's guts in a way, but you always feel like there's this underlying deeper relationship that they mean something to each other. And I liked how the show is building that up. And then one of my favorite moments, actually, or my favorite moment probably in the whole show, is episode 8 of season 2, where the discussion between Gurren and Yu about how to overcome loss, and be able to live with the fact that you couldn't someone you loved, your family, or as we get to learn later, heavy spoilers here, Gurren's girlfriend. And so they both, speak from a perspective where they know what they're talking about. You lost his family, or his former family, and Gurren lost his girlfriend, so they, can relate to each other. And Gurren tells him, just live you. Until you find a good reason to want to live, then someday someone will show up who needs your help. And that's just a beautiful moment between you and Gurren that tells us that Gurren is not the hard-ass, cool commander jerk he always pretends to be. I mean, he berates you for acting like a child and being an idiot and so on, but this moment shows that he really cares about him, and also makes us understand why Yu is so intent on rescuing him when Gurren gets captured in the later course of season 2. That's a great character moment.
I don't know if I have any one moment in particular, because I just, I thought the show as a whole was great, but I feel like those moments where the Shinua squad actually acted as a team and were able to put aside, any small differences they had, and were like, hey, we can do this, let's get this done. Just moments like that, like later on in the second season when they have to fight that one big dude vampire, Wesker,
Yeah,
and they end up just taunting him into fighting them, and then they take him down pretty handily.
yeah, that was a great moment. Like these teamwork moments in shows always get me too. Like where they like working like perfect gears and put everything they learn to the test and show you, yeah, we're an awesome team. It's
Yeah,
like one, yeah,
it's just a moment where you see that happen. You're like, yeah, check
yeah,
them out.
damn. I as much as I hate One Piece for what it's become with starting with a Thriller Bark arc. That arc has one great final battle where all of the main characters work together to take down the final boss, and the way they work together in that fight is just amazing. So more of that, please. Like teamwork fights. That's not just two characters pitting their brawn against each other, but make it like several characters fighting, one big foe one-on-one. That's always cool when that works. So after Yu gets rescued and gets his training and everything, is put into his new army unit, and they start their first missions. They have to do a trial where they pick up their demon weapons. So these specific army units use weapons that are possessed by demons, which becomes a more important part later in the show, but is already integral in the first season, because they all have to come to master these weapons. They basically have to touch them and then face their own demons, or the demon that is in the weapon, but that demon tries to seduce them and make them lose control and give themselves over to the demon and succumb to their inner desires and lose themselves. So that's a very important episode in the first season where they have to fight that. And those, at least for you, the demon that resides in his weapon, I think Ashura was his or her name.
Ashura
Its
Maru.
name. Ashura. At least for you, his demon always appears on and off again. Sometimes when Yu gets unconscious, or in a specific moment when he needs more power or something, he converses with Ashura in his in like this kind of dream dimension state. The whole demon thing becomes more integral in the back part of season 2.
Even though you see a little bit of all of the characters speaking or interacting rather with the demons and their weapons, I feel like Yu has more and more meaningful interactions with Ashura Maru than like the other characters do with their own demons.
Yu is always on the brink to, I don't know, in specific parts of the story, always on the brink of losing himself to, I don't know, his rage or anything, or his desires, to give up his humanity for the sake of saving his family, saving Mika, who of course hasn't died, but got saved by the guy who killed the rest of Yu's family, and that happens pretty early on that we find that out.
Saved is an interesting word choice.
Yeah, he got turned into a vampire too, and I'll get to that in a minute because that's also a very important part of the story. But Yu always is on the brink of giving into the power, to the overwhelming power of the sword, or to get more power from it, and then risking losing his humanity and everything. And it becomes a very important part in the show as well. And Ashura is always tempting him to do so because it wants to be to fuse with you, I assume.
Yeah.
For them to become one being, like the sword and the master, create one entity. And I think there's one more hidden agenda, which I won't go into now because that is really that's endgame spoilers. So Ashura definitely is a big player in the series and becomes more important later on. So let's talk about Mika here for a bit, because after that thing with the demon weapons happen, we basically move on to find the vampires and destroy them plotline. And that's pretty much what happens for the rest of the series, or it's what drives the series. Until some more plot gears start to turn. But Mika, like I mentioned earlier, survived. Kinda. He's been turned into a vampire by this big vampire douche who killed Yu's entire family, or the rest of Yu's family, called Valkyrie. And he basically, bit Mika, sucked his blood, and then brought him before the vampire queen, Krutepis. And she gave Mika a bit of her blood, and thus, became a vampire. But not fully, because he has not yet drunken human blood. So he's not yet a full vampire, and he has to sustain himself or keep himself alive with like these vials that have Krull's blood in them, and he carries those around for that reason. Mika, another guy who's trying to cling onto his humanity from the other side of the spectrum, or well, is he? Because he's blaming the humans for taking you away from him and like integrating him into the army machinery.
There's some weird blame shifting going on with him. I feel like he would understand Yu's situation a little better, but he's very blindly like, all the humans are bad. Oh, except for you. And it's like,
I don't know. I don't quite remember how he got to that conclusion. If we see anything where the humans betray him or something, but it's like they took Hugh away from me, and now I have to get him back, and they're keeping me away from Hugh, basically, from my brother, and I don't know. That's probably his reasoning. So that's his motivation for most of the show. Mika is trying to get you back, and trying to run, to get him back and run away with him from the vampires and the humans. Like, I don't know, try to build up a new life just for him and you somewhere else, not where they are right now. And yeah, so he, for the most part of season 1 and season 2, is trying to find you, and they meet up eventually, and have to come to terms with what they have become, and how they want to continue on from that. And their whole character arc, or the way the show is presenting it, is mostly what drives the show. But it's also there's also some conspiracy stuff happening in the background. Like not everything is like honky dory in the vampire empire.
Well, there's stuff going on behind the scenes on both sides. So.
Exactly. They're like conspirators on both sides who actually work with each other to, change things up. We don't know how yet, what like the big master plan is. I assume that we learn about that if we get a third season. But there are several players among the vampires and among the the army officials and high-ranking officers that are playing their own little games and driving their own little agendas. So that's also a very interesting part of the show, like finding out, what are all these characters about, and what are they trying to do, and where's this going? So it's not just Mika and you, which is a big part of the story, but the other big part is like, what are these two factions about, and where are they going? And pretty cool stuff that's happening there. Also, talking about the presentation of the show, I saw a lot of comparisons to the manga, especially when it comes to the relationship between you and Mika. And there's no talking around it or anything. The anime has been severely gayed up compared to its manga origin. It's not even subtle or anything if you compare the manga panels to what the anime is doing, like especially in the scene where you and Mika finally meet up again in the second season after being apart for so long. Their long gazes into each other's eyes. There's
family.
Family. Prolonged hugging. There's like slowly pulling down the sleeve from your neck, from Yu's neck, and asking Mika to bite him, and like these very erotically framed scenes between those two. And it's not subtle at all. It's very, I feel like the show knew that there was this specific audience that would flock to it, just in terms of, because of the character designs and everything, and the character constellation in the manga. It was like, okay, let's try to to service these people as well, and that's what they did. And it's not.
I don't feel like it was offensive or anything.
No, not at all. No, it's not. Mostly it's funny because it's so obvious. It's so obvious why they're doing that, and I haven't read the manga, so maybe if I did, I was like, no, that's not how these characters. Feels a lot more like they're brothers and not lovers in the manga. In the anime, you cannot be so sure, and that's intentional. But it's not like it's obstructing the story or anything or the plot development. It's like, yeah, maybe these two have different kind of relationship that they do in the manga, slightly different from an emotional component, but it still works. It's still like these two are trying to get back together. They try to reunite their little family, and yeah, that's as strong as it is in the manga. It doesn't really depend on what kind of deeper relationship they have. It works. So yeah, that's in there and it's undeniable, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't upgrade and it doesn't downgrade the story or the series in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just had to mention it. It's like if you have read the manga and you're like, hey, I want to give the anime a chance, prepare for that because it's it's very obvious. You can't look past it.
It's like quite the opposite of what we were seeing about Valkyrie Drive, but not nearly as bad.
Definitely, and yeah, different kind of fan service. Man service, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, there are no like prolonged scenes of bare six packs that are glistening with water drops and everything like in Free, but it's in there. It's definitely like, hey, we got some Fujoshi watching, and they will probably like that. So let's keep it like that. So or frame it like that, and that's fine. That's totally fine. It doesn't subtract from the show's strength in any way. So.
And mostly because it was only like an isolated scene.
Well, yeah. I mean, if the subtext and everything and the way certain characters talk about other characters, you have that here and there in the episode. But you're right. That's the scene where it's the strongest and the most overt. So yeah. But beyond that, it's not bothersome at all, and it works, like I said. So yeah, they basically the story progresses to season 1, from season 1 to season 2, by the characters going on missions, trying to kill vampires and trying to, take back a specific part of an area, and then in the second season, there's like the preparation for this giant attack on a vampire stronghold, like trying to take down this array of vampire nobles who have invaded and occupied a specific area, namely Nagoya in this case. That's why the second season is called Battle for Nagoya. And they're trying to take them down and prepare for like this giant attack from the army. And then a few things go wrong and people get killed, of course. This is also something that happens in the show. You shouldn't, aside from the main characters, you shouldn't get used to any of the side characters.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are red shirts. They have character and, they get developed to a certain point. But there are a lot of characters that die in that show. A lot of side characters get killed. And just be prepared for that. Yeah, lots of death, as you would expect, if it's war. So that has to happen. And then that happens. Second season, things go wrong, and Gurren gets captured, and a big part of second season is his unit and the unit of Shinra. So you and the other guys are trying to get him back, and then this all culminates in this big battle where one of the big army officers, who is the biggest douche in the whole series, Kureto. I forgot his whole name, but it's not worth mentioning because he's an asshole. Anyway, he is, headlining this attack on the Empire strongholds and stepping on corpses, even of those of his fellow army comrades. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants the glory and the success and of the mission, and that's all that matters to him. And that's basically where the second season goes, and that's how it ends, kinda. And
we're leaving out key details for people who would like to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is a very, very broad summary, just to know where it's going and where we are at this point. And you had a problem with the ending of the second season. I remember that vividly because you were very disappointed in how it wrapped up, in that it didn't really wrap up at all. We are at a certain point where the characters, like, we have this constellation of characters that are now out of the battle zone and basically have to, go back and try to rescue a certain person or several people that are important to them. And it's kind of a non-ending for now.
I know that the story is still ongoing because the manga is still running. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as
So,
I know, yes.
but I mean, I feel like what you said before about it being kind of a non-ending. Yeah, it's like one of those, but the adventure's just begun endings. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, you couldn't have given it a little more punch or more meaning than that.
Well, the main problem is there's so much happening in the last two episodes that we didn't really see coming. Maybe in a way we did, but then again we didn't. There's like so many revelations. They're like, holy shit! Oh my god, I didn't see that coming. And oh my god, what is happening right now? And then it ends. It ends on a good cutoff note. Like, it's okay. It's nice that these characters are where they are, but there's so much new interesting shit that opened up that you want to see the conclusion to. And just when that happens, the second season ends. So if we don't get a third one, and I think we will, I'm pretty sure we will.
I
I
hope we
hope
do.
so. Yeah, that's a problem with anime. You can't always count on that, depending on how long the manga takes to move on. And I don't know how fast the Seraph manga is published, and I don't know how quickly we gonna have enough new material to do another season. But I feel like in recent years, anime have shifted more to a season by season model anyway, instead of going for filler material inside the series, except for the big shonen series. And
Naruto.
yeah, Naruto, One Piece. I mean, Bleach ended, but it feels like, okay, we're gonna do season now, and then we're gonna wait until the manga has moved on, and then maybe like next year or year after, like they do with Attack on Titan. If the show is popular enough, and I think Sarah of the End was popular enough, then it might take like maybe up to a year or 2 years or more, but you will get a second season because there's still enough interest in that brand and everything to, I don't know, to justify a new season of that.
I mean, Wit Studio also, are working on their own projects, like the next Attack on Titan. They have a show coming up this next season called, I believe, Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress.
Yeah.
I know it's not a huge, probably a project on scale with a full series, but it's a somewhat high-profile project. They did the opening animation for Tales of Asteria.
Yeah.
So, say what you will, that, oh, it's just, an intro for a mobile game. It's still,
Yeah, sure. Work is work.
Look
And
at, UFO Table did a whole bunch of Tales work in the past, so
oh,
it's still pretty high profile.
they're still doing it, I think, right? I mean, for the big budget like mainline Tales games, I think Ufotable are still the ones who do the animated sequences.
Well, I know they did Exilia. I don't know if they had a hand in Zisteria though. They probably didn't.
I think in Zisteria. I don't know if they're working on Berseria, but I think they did the OVA for the prequel OVA for Zisteria, and they're also doing the cutscenes for. But I'm not sure. I had to look that up. But anyway, yeah, they do that, and as long as the studio is around, it gets really complicated if the studio goes bankrupt or anything, or that happened recently with Manglobe. Manglobe did the first season of Gangsta, which was a show, despite it being janky in its animation department and everything, and had a bit of a slow pace, but I liked that show, and that ended on a real non-ending, like cliffhanger deluxe, and we will not get a second season of that because Manglobe went bankrupt after that. So
I didn't realize they had shuttered entirely.
Yeah, they did. They have, and so the license right now is full. I mean, there's always a chance that another studio is going to pick it up, but that that chance got really slim. So, I mean,
That's too bad.
yeah, I mean, the show wasn't that big of a success to begin with, I think.
But I know
So
you enjoyed it, so.
yeah, I did. I really did. Man, especially that opening. Wow. Anyway, yeah, that was a good show, and I'm really sad that it doesn't get a second season. I'm much more probably won't get a second season. I'm much more optimistic about Seraph getting a third, at least for now, and might not happen this year. Maybe next or the one after that, but I can wait. And like I said, the story kept me like very invested. So and if we don't get a next season, I will probably read the manga, I think. But it's always nice to see the story conclude in the medium you started on.
Yeah.
Because you're used to everything, like the presentation, the character voices, and the pacing and all that. So yeah, you talked about mentioned Attack on Titan several times on this show now because of which studio. And there have been comparisons between Attack on Titan and this show, which are not that as far-fetched as you might think.
Really?
In my opinion. Yeah, like, just in terms of... Okay, it's not only the same animation studio and the same music composer, which is Hiroki Sawano, right, the main man. I like one of my favorite anime composers, like, at this point. I mean, he has this very distinct style that is, once you hear, exactly it's him, because he kind of always does the same thing. Like, I wouldn't call him a one-trick pony, but he has this very recognizable style that I like that one. I could listen to that endlessly, and I like the stuff he did for Attack on Titan, for Gundam Unicorn, for Kill la Kill, for Seven Deadly Sins. He recently scored the soundtrack for the video game Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is also amazing. So yeah, that's also so.
Apparently, he's going to be doing the music for Cabaneri as well. So.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so Attack on Titan and Seraph share the same composer and same animation studio, and some of the same writers. The script writer is the same. And both are set in a kind of apocalyptic world where mankind is threatened by an outside force. And you have this very strong focus on the value of family. Like in Attack on Titan, you have Eren, Armin, and is it Mikasa or Misaka? I always mix those up. Mikasa. And in this one, you have Yu and his comrades from his unit. And, both shows are not subtle about this at all. I can't even count how many times the word family has been uttered in Seraph, and the family-esque bond between the three main characters in Attack on Titan is just as relevant and hammered home as in this show. Like, how they rely on each other, how they, like, help each other grow, and, like, strengthen, like, their bond strengthened their power and, their will to survive. And, yeah, I think, at least in that regard, those comparisons are valid. Of course, not in the general plot itself, just the setup and how certain character constellations work in those two shows. So yeah, just wanted to mention that, just to bring that up, because that was something that jumped at me when I read up on the talk about this show. So yeah, I really liked Terror of the End. I think it has its cheesy moment. Obviously, there's a lot of rage vomit scenes in this one, and a lot of oh my god, family, oh my god, Mika, oh my god, you, I'm gonna get you back. Let's run away together. Maybe let's suck each other's blood or something else. And yeah, but it's a very strong action show with strong characters and, in my opinion, really interesting plot developments and a great pacing. So if you're in for a cool, sometimes dumb, sometimes hilarious action show, then maybe give it a chance. Like I said, I liked it a lot. I hope we get a third season. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to highlight about the show? Anything more?
I mean, I think we touched on most of it. It had great writing, directing. It had a great cast of voice actors too.
Oh yeah, definitely some familiars in there.
Oh yeah. I think Nobuhiko Okamoto's performance as Yoichi was a little different for him, and I kind of like that because the first time I think many people heard him was as Accelerator in Index, and he's very brash, very rah. But a lot of his more recent roles have shown his range, like Yoichi, like Obi from Akagami no Shirayuki Hime, and it's nice to see actors who are relatively new, come into these different and interesting roles.
Yeah, have we seen or heard rather, the actress for Shinwa before?
Oh yeah, Sari Hayami has been in a bunch of stuff. Again, she's also in Akagami no Shirayuki Hime. So
Okay.
you get to hear both of them together in a different show. But yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
she has been in. If we ran down her full list of roles, we'd take all day. But yeah, she has also been in a lot, and I actually really like her. So
She just stood out to me, like that character specifically, and her voice work in this because of the snarky banter with you and everything. I just really liked her voice work in Seraph. So yeah, should maybe check out her other stuff. But I probably already
I'm sure you've heard her before in other things.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, good stuff. Good production values all around. So if you're in the mood for some demon, vampire, angels, monster action with some cool battles, cool characters, and some heart-wrenching moments too, a lot of drama in that show. So if you're in the mood for that, definitely pick it up because I think it will be worth your time. And that is a wrap on the 4th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and animebrainfreeze.com. Leave us a comment any way you like, or send us an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Adios!
Peace out.